Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today we are going to be talking about thrillers and horror books that I love by BIPOC authors. So if you do not know what this term means, BIPOC, if you've never heard of that before, it's basically a way of saying POC, people of color, but emphasizing Black and Indigenous people as well, because we want their voices to be heard, especially right now in the climate that we're living in. This term came into popularity around the height of the Black Lives Matter movement last summer in 2020. So we're just emphasizing Black and Indigenous voices among the all people of color community. So all of these thriller and horror books that I'm going to be talking about today are by Black and Indigenous voices or just other people of color. I have books by Latinx authors, books by Asian authors, books by Middle Eastern authors. So we have a range of diversity in this video, and I really just want to celebrate these authors because it's really hard to get accurate and diverse representation, especially in the thriller and horror genre. I don't know what it is about this genre. It just doesn't click with the diversity and inclusivity of other book genres. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe because we all just like reading about white people who murder each other. I feel like that's where my obsession with true crime and thrillers started, was like obsessively watching Dateline as a child. I don't know. And those kind of things always centered on like white people, like white rich people drama specifically. I don't know. Maybe that's a contributing factor. This is all conjecture. This is all just my theory. But it is really important to emphasize BIPOC voices within this genre. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the recommendations. The first book I want to recommend is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. Alyssa Cole usually writes romance novels, but this is kind of her foray into the thriller genre. It's definitely more of a romantic suspense thriller. There is a pretty romance-heavy plot, so if that is something you're looking for, definitely check this one out. It follows our main character as she is noticing people in her traditionally historically Black neighborhood are going missing, or they're moving out and being replaced with white families, and it just seems a little suspicious to her. So she kind of teams up with one of the white guys in her neighborhood that she actually at the beginning has a lot of animosity towards, obviously because gentrification, and they try to figure out what is going on in the neighborhood. There's a lot of great social commentary in this one about gentrification and how it is harmful, but it's in this like sci-fi thriller arena, and the end is just crazy. It just explodes into madness. So if that sounds good to you, definitely pick up When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. The next book I want to talk about is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. And this author is actually from Nigeria. This book is set in Nigeria, and I haven't ever read anything else set in Nigeria, so it's a really unique setting. I really liked reading a thriller that was refreshing and different from the usual like suburban setting. And this basically follows our main character whose sister is killing off all of her boyfriends, and she calls up our main character and is like, "Hey queen, like will you come help me get rid of his body?" So her sister goes and helps her, and trouble kind of comes up when her sister starts dating this guy that our main character actually really cares about. She's scared that he's gonna die, and she's caught in this moral dilemma. This one's super short, less than 300 pages. It's actually like 210 pages, so really short, really fast paced. I highly recommend this one. I loved it. Next up, I have a couple of horror books, and if you know me, you know I really love Stephen Graham Jones. Both of these books I gave 4.5 stars. They're so close to perfect horror novels. And I've actually learned a lot by reading these books about Native American culture and just indigenous traditions and about indigenous people. So I highly recommend these. The Only Good Indians follows a group of Native American boys, and they actually ended up killing an elk when it was like out of season, and our main character is having a lot of guilt around that, and he thinks that this elk is coming after him and his friends and trying to kill him. It's very much like a creature feature, slasher, bloody, gory horror, and it also has those really great cultural elements in there as well. So super recommend this one. It is so thrilling. And then of course we have The Night of the Mannequins. This one is hilarious. Stephen Graham Jones just has this great, like, dry, funny kind of voice in his writing, especially when he's writing from like a young male teenager perspective. I don't know, I just find it so endearing the way that he writes these stories. And this one's a novella. It's super short. It follows this group of kids who think it would be funny to dress up a mannequin and take him to the movie theater and just like prank one of their friends who works at the movie theater, like, that's not a person, that's a mannequin. Like, very much middle school, high school humor. And things go wrong when the mannequin actually gets up and buys his own ticket for the movie. Is he possessed? Is he a real human being? Is he gonna commit a murder? Read Night of the Mannequins to find out. And then another book by Stephen Graham Jones that I have not read yet, but is on my TBR for this October, is The Last Final Girl. I love books about final girls. I love that trope. So I'm super excited to read Stephen Graham Jones' take on it, and maybe that'll be my perfect 5-star read from him. I also have an arc of My Heart is a Chainsaw, which is his newest release, so you will definitely be hearing about that one in a wrap-up soon. The next POC author I want to talk about is Kene Minato, and all of their work is completely translated. It is first written in Japanese, obviously. Kene Minato is a Japanese author, and probably their most popular work is Confessions. This book is wild, like absolutely wild. If you want a thriller that will keep you on the edge of your seat the whole time and blow your mind with twists every single chapter, I highly recommend Confessions. It follows a teacher who is about to leave her position at the school, and in her kind of going away speech, she tells them why she's leaving and exacts her revenge on the students that kind of pushed her out of the door. It's wild. And I know that they have some other books that have been really highly rated as well. Caroline Johnson is a big fan of Kene Minato, so I'll definitely be reading more from them in the future. A book that I feel like is super severely underhyped, like criminally underhyped, is Take It Back by Kia Abdullah. Kia Abdullah is a British Bengali author, and she really sheds a lot of light on what it's like to be a Muslim person in the UK. I didn't realize how severe the xenophobia and Islamophobia was in the UK, and she weaves that kind of cultural perspective into this legal thriller that is so exciting, so like morally challenging. Like, you think you know what the morally right thing to do is in this book, and then it just shatters what you think, and it's like changing every other page. So if you like moral dilemma kind of thrillers, I think you will love this book. It follows a Muslim woman, and she is a victim's advocate. She used to be a defense attorney, but she got tired of that. It got really hard for her to do that every day, so she switched to being a victim's advocate for women who are victims of sexual crimes. So this girl comes into her office one day and says, like, can you help me? I was raped at a party last night. And she is this little white girl. She has a facial deformity, so she's really like not attractive, and it opens up all these questions about, you know, why would somebody choose to rape you when you look like that? And going into those discussions, because I know that sounds disgusting, but that's what some people say. That is an actual narrative that goes through people's minds and is tweeted out on Twitter, I'm sure, every time a case like this comes up. but the Muslim lawyer is put in a really hard position because she wants to represent this white girl with the deformity who is a victim, but the people that she is alleging she was raped by are this group of Muslim boys. So she would be kind of going against her community in order to advocate for this alleged victim. And she comes under a lot of fire in the media. If you like The Night Swim, if you like any books that have commentary on rape culture or the Me Too movement, I think you would love this one. It's so thrilling, keeps you on the edge of your seat, and is so just, it's challenging. It's a really challenging book to read, and I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on it if you have read it, because I just wanted to, I don't want to spoil anything, but it would be such a great book to discuss. Next up, I'm going to talk about my favorite ever YA thriller author, and that is Tiffany D. Jackson. When I read Grown, it absolutely blew my mind, blew me away. I could not believe that this was a YA book. Tiffany D. Jackson writes really dark YA thrillers. I really think the only thing that makes them YA is that the main characters are minors, and the rest of it really seems like pretty adult content. So Grown, for example, this was a 5-star book for me. It follows our main character who's trying to be a singer, and at a talent competition, she's spotted by this really powerful celebrity, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna make you a star. And in her mind, she needs to do everything to kind of show her gratitude to him and please him and pay him back for the publicity and the chops that he's given her in the industry. But in actuality, she's a victim and he is grooming her. So you follow her story and what it's like to go through that. It literally will tear your heart into reading what it's like to be a victim. Like, from her perspective, it is, oh my God. Sometimes you want to just hug her and let her cry on you, and then sometimes you want to scream at her and be like, girl, come on, like, he does not love you. But obviously you can't blame the victim in this kind of situation. She's a minor. Absolutely so powerful. Also loved Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This follows a little bit of a younger perspective. It is our main character's first day of high school, and she shows up. She's really nervous for her first day of high school, and she's counting on her best friend Monday to kind of get her through, you know, be that comforting, supportive person in the halls. But Monday never shows up, and she tells teachers, she tells her parents, and nobody seems to care that Monday is missing. So you're following the story of her disappearance, trying to find out where she went. I also have Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson on my TBR cart, but is like buried under all these books, so I'm not trying to dig that out right now. But know that this one is on my TBR, and I can't wait to get to it. I also want to mention another kind of literary horror book that wasn't my favorite, but I have heard people that really love this book, and that is Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. And this follows a white couple who go to stay in this Airbnb. They're on vacation. It's kind of like a trippy, weird style of writing. It's very eerie. And there's a blackout that happens. So they're like, you know what? We're just chilling in this Airbnb. We're like way out in the country. We're fine. We're not in the city. We're not in danger. We're just gonna chill. But the black couple that actually lives in the house, like that Airbnb, they own it. They show up and they're like, hey, like, we can't be in the city right now. It's dangerous. There's a blackout. Can we come back in our house? And the couple's like, you know, this is kind of our vacation, but like they live here, so like we kind of gotta let them in. And it's like a very weird get out situation. I don't know. It was very uncomfortable. I didn't really like this book a ton, but it is by a BIPOC author, so I wanted to mention it. It also obviously has very diverse representation within this book, which is very important to recognize within, again, the thriller genre. Another one of my favorite authors of color is Jennifer Hillier. Obviously, she wrote one of my favorite books of all time, which is Jar of Hearts, and I will not go through the entire synopsis again. I'm sure y'all are so tired of hearing me describe this book. I swear I've talked about it in my past like 7 videos, but you have to read this book. If you read any book from this video, read Jar of Hearts by Jennifer Hillier. It is phenomenal. Another couple of my favorite books by Jennifer Hillier are The Butcher. This is one of my favorite books as well. I give it 5 stars. It follows this guy who inherits his grandfather's house, and his grandfather was like the chief of police. He was like this very lauded member of society because he caught the butcher, like brought him into custody, caught this infamous serial killer, brought him off the streets. And when our main character moves into this house, his grandfather's house, he finds some evidence that can suggest that maybe the person that he arrested was not actually the butcher, and the butcher is actually still out there committing murder. It is crazy, it is gory, it is dark. Please look up the trigger warnings, and if you have a weak stomach, don't read this one. But if you're like me and you want the nasty, gory, gritty horror thrillers, read this one. I also loved Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier. This is following a mother who is walking through Pike Place Market with her son, and she gets a phone call, drops his hand for 1 second to dig in her purse and get her phone out. And when she looks back down, her son is missing. So she's dealing with a lot of people blaming her for her son's disappearance. She's dealing with a lot of grief over not knowing what's happening to her son. And things go from there as we're investigating the disappearance of this little boy. The twist at the end is crazy. If you like wild, twisty, dramatic, I'm talking drama, domestic thrillers, you gotta read this one. Lastly, I just wanted to mention a couple thrillers that I have yet to read, so I can't really recommend them yet because I don't know if they're that good or not, but I do have some thrillers that I am highly anticipating on my physical TBR that are by BIPOC authors, so I just figured that I would talk about them. The first one is They All Fall Down by Rachel Housel Hall, and this is an isolated setting thriller where these 7 people are invited to this private island vacation. I think it's maybe like a sweepstakes thing, oh my god, you won this luxury vacation. So our main character is like, duh, of course I'm gonna go. And she goes and she realizes that these 7 strangers are all brought there under false pretenses, and they are getting picked off. They all are going to fall down unless they can escape off this island. This sounds so good. I don't know why I haven't heard anyone talk about it, and it's by a Black author. So hello, we should be amplifying this author's voice within the thriller community. So I'm gonna read this one soon, and I'm so excited. It just sounds so perfect for summer, and it's also super short. It's like 300 of these teeny tiny pages. So I feel like I'm gonna speed through this one. It's gonna be the perfect end of summer read. And the last one I'm going to talk about, you guys probably have heard of because it was a book of the month pick. It is The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. And I'm so sorry for butchering your name, Miss Harris. But this follows the story of a girl who works at a publishing company, and she is like the only Black girl that works there until another Black girl gets hired, and she's like, oh my god, hey girl, we can connect, we're in the same community, what's up? Thinks they're gonna be all gal pals. And then she starts receiving these notes at her desk that are like, leave or I'm gonna kill you, bitch. And she's like, oh my god, is this the other Black girl that's doing this to me? What is happening? Am I gonna die? I've heard it's a kind of slow burn workplace kind of thriller, but I'm really excited to get to it. I watched a little bit of the non-spoilery thoughts of the book troop discussion of this book, and it seems like a lot of people actually really enjoyed this book. So very excited to get to this one. And those are going to be all of the books I have to recommend for you guys in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like this video, don't forget to actually like it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.